Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci fi show where things can get totally radical. Now, today is my 50th episode. 50 episodes, I can't believe I've gone that far. And I got a real treat for all you fans of my horror shows today. I'm interviewing a legend. And that legend is the female Cenobite herself, Barbie Wilde. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Oh, it's going to be an awesome interview. She's calling me in just a moment. Oh, and I'd like to say rest in peace to the Challenger victims. They died on this day in 1986. I'm still skeptical as to whether or not it was a hoax or not, but if it wasn't, my condolences to the families involved. And so, rest in peace, the Challenger. But other than that, yeah, Barbie Wilde will be calling me in a few seconds, and it's going to be awesome.
Hi, Tommy.
How you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. How's this connection?
Oh, it's pretty good.
Good. How is the morning there in sunny California? Or is it sunny at all? Actually, why am I assuming it's sunny?
It is pretty sunny, but it's like 40 degrees out.
Oh, I've gone centigrade. 40 degrees. That sounds cold, right?
Yeah, it's freezing.
That's not right, is it? Oh, dear. So, right. So, should we start the interview? Are we recording now?
Oh yeah, we're recording now.
Oh, fine. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's such an honor, Barbie, because I was supposed to meet you back in October at Famous Monsters in San Jose, but it was canceled because of the fire.
Oh, yes, yeah. I was so sad about that because we were really looking forward to coming. It was going to be a big, reunion and stuff. But obviously, with people, the organizers, in danger of losing their offices and houses, it was they canceled it. It was a good thing. But so, are you near San Francisco then?
That's where I'm originally from, San Francisco. Yeah, but I'm just like 3 hours away in Redding.
Right. No, it's a beautiful area. I've been to San Francisco. I love it. Love to go back one day. That's another reason why I was sad that it didn't work out because I was looking forward to seeing Northern California again. But here we are. We're meeting on the phone.
Yes, absolutely. So, you started out as a mime. Now, what made you decide to get into that field of show business?
Well, I think a lot of people assume that one makes these decisions. You have this narrative arc of your career.
Right.
I think with me, I was always a little bit of a door opens, I'll go through it. And I think that with a lot of people in, excuse me, show business, it's so tough to get work for the most part.
Right.
That if an opportunity arises, you take it. I mean, the reason I started out was a friend of mine recommended this place called the Dance Center in Covent Garden in London when I went over to do a couple of semesters with the Syracuse University London program for drama and art history. And they said, oh, you must go to, do mime class. I did mime, and it was so much fun, did all this math work. And I thought, well, I hadn't done it so far in my studies of theater, so I thought, why not? And I got to know my mime teacher. I actually fell in love with a fellow mime artist, and we were together for 4 years. Mm-hmm. And my mime teacher had a mime group called Silence, and he said, listen, there's a space open. Do you want to join? And I thought, well, I could go back, finish my degree, or I could stay here, break my parents' heart, and become a professional meme artiste, which is what I ended up doing. I mean, my father, at least, was very happy that I was staying in London because he preferred that to, he knew London well. And New York at that time was a very dangerous place, and that was either New York or LA if you were going to continue in acting. So
Right.
he said, "Oh, well, that's great. You go ahead." And they were always very supportive. For my parents, even though they thought, "What's in my mind? What's going on here? Isn't it myself?" But so that's how I got into it, and we toured a bit, and we did a show with the Arts Theatre Club in the centre of London, and Marcel came to see us
Oh, nice.
perform, and then through that we met some other people, and that's how we got involved with doing Shock, which had elements of mime in it, and then through that we signed to RCA Records and went that sort of strange circuitous route through the music business. But certainly it was just me going to a class and getting on with the people that started it, and I also enjoyed it. It was an interesting discipline.
Yeah, it sure seems like it. You had a mime rock group called Shock, and you guys toured with some of my favorite bands of that new wave era: Depeche Mode, Ultravox, Gary Newman. What was that like?
It was fantastic. I have to say, I'm an 80s fan. It was some of the most fun I ever had was when, Robert Pareto, L.A. Richards, Sean Crawford, Tim Dry, myself, Carol Kaplan, and there were a couple other girls. But Carol was, basically, she was the last member to join, and she went with us to New York and with us when we were doing recording and stuff like that. So that was... that was enormous fun. And a lot of people, with the exception of Gary, who was pretty well established, Depeche Mode were just babies, on this tiny tour and classics Nouveau and stuff. And we were all just so excited that we were doing this. And we had just been doing cabaret gigs and nightclubs and performing, and people would come and see us, like Spandau Ballet would come and see us in Ultravox, and that's where they got the idea of inviting us to support them. But we also had connections with Rusty Egan and Richard Burgess, and they were doing this track called Angel Face, and they wanted us, and that's where that became our single. They were just fooling around and said, "Why don't you guys, take this over, and this will be your single." And it was that's again RCA Records. That again we were signed to them, and so it was at that time we were all sort of promoting each other's work, but we did a huge amount of touring up and down the UK, and it was very tiring, but it was a huge amount of fun. And we did some television and things like that. And sadly, no financial success ensued, and we broke up after a few years. But it was certainly a huge, very glamorous. We even went to New York and did a residency at the Ritz Club, which is fantastic. But again, these things happen. For every band you see, on Top of the Pops or, performing away or whatever it is, whatever show is in the United States that showcases, the top 40. There are hundreds that don't make it.
Yeah.
And sadly, although we had a huge amount of exposure, it was, I think people didn't know how to take us actually, because we all moved around and we were, dancing, singing, wrote our own songs, did a lot of this stuff. However, I think that it was trying to break out of, well, are they cabaret, are they burlesque, are they, at that time people didn't do a lot of that. There was Kate Bush, she did a lot of movement.
Yeah.
But the whole dance music thing was just getting started.
Yeah. Did you know Ricky Gervais?
No, I don't.
Yeah, because he was the lead singer of Siona Dancing at that time.
He was?
Yeah.
I don't know. Siona Dancing.
Yeah, they were.
I don't know that band.
Yeah, they were a one-hit wonder, and they were pretty popular in England for that short time in the early 80s.
Oh gosh. Well, my apologies to Ricky, but I don't know them. I'll look them up after I speak to you. But what was their song called?
More to Lose.
Oh no, I don't. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I mean, he's quite a jack of all trades, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a comedian.
I've never heard of this. I'm going to have to listen to it. Oh, and everybody looks all very serious and great haircuts. Yes, that was the 80s.
Yeah.
So I just saw that. Oh, the hair. Oh, the makeup.
Yeah.
So, it was just, an incredible time. I thought the music was fantastic. It was all very sort of melodic and interesting. And it had just come out of the punk period in the 70s, and that was all very nihilistic and grim. So everybody just went, to heck with that. Let's just dress up and be cool looking and make nice sounding music. And, but, in the end, Shock did, after, 3 years, I think, we finally did break up, sadly.
Yeah.
And we all sort of scattered to do different things. Robert Nelly went on to do The Pleasure and the Beast, and Tim and Sean created Tick and Talk. That they were part of Shock, and Carol went on to do some amazing things, advising people in style and stuff, including the Prime Minister Tony Blair. And I went back to acting. And hence, the other things that I'm sort of better known for, perhaps, in my fabulous acting career.
Yes. Yeah. So what made you decide to get into acting?
Well, no, I always wanted to be an actress, and since I was 12, and I was cast in a play called The Mighty Germ. And I had to be a teacher in a schoolroom, and the germ comes in wearing a cape, and we all get these colds. And I perfected this extraordinary violent sneeze where I sort of threw myself back in this theatrical manner, and everyone laughed because it was so masterful a performance, right?
Yeah.
Sixth graders. And for the most part, no one ever paid any attention to me whatsoever. I was a ghost in school. And this just was, total addiction. Wow. People aren't laughing at me, they're laughing with me because I'm so fabulous. And so that's just, I want to be an actress, I want to be an actress. And so that's, I took drama classes. And when I went to university, my major was in drama.
Yeah.
So it's what I always wanted to do. And really, doing the mime thing was a bit of a distraction. Getting involved in the music business wasn't what I came to London to learn about or do. But it just, like I said, a door opened. I thought, well, this sounds interesting. Let's see where this takes me. And like I said, it was an interesting journey. But then I thought, after the music business, and I did try to do more, go out there as a solo artist. But in the end, at that time, we were very interested. EMI was very interested. But they said, well, we actually already have a solo female singer, and that was Bonnie Tyler. And there was no way I could sing like Bonnie Tyler. So, but that's how they thought. Well, this niche is filled, we have that genre covered. So I just went, well, I'll just see how I can get on as an actress, and then subsequently as a TV presenter.
And you got to co-star alongside the iconic Charles Bronson in Death Wish 3.
Yes. That was, how did I get that part? It was I had a few agents back then. And this guy sent me along, and I met Michael Winner in his beautiful home in Kensington. And he said, oh, yes, darling, I'm sure we can find a part for you in this. And so, I just turned up on set, and I was a member of the gang. And so I was sort of, Gavin O'Hurley's baddie girlfriend, if you like.
Yeah.
So I just got to hang out with the likes of Alex Winter and, people who would go on with. I didn't actually meet Marina Sirtis, I think her name is, who went on to do Deanna Troi in Star Trek, The Next Generation.
Yep.
But I think she came to a sticky end in Death Wish, a very nasty one. But, it was a very interesting experience. I think the film I did before that was, again, it was while I was still trying to get somewhere in the music business, was Grizzly 2 in Hungary.
Yeah.
But that actually never saw the light of day. But it had a huge amount of stars in it, like Louis Fletcher and oh God, gone blank. Quite a few people who were very well known, but unfortunately, again, it sort of never got out of the director's basement.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. It's one of those,
Yeah.
But that was enormous fun because we were filming in Hungary and, what am I saying? Of course, the people who died at the beginning of the film were George Clooney, Charlie Sheen, and Laura Dern.
Wow.
And they all went on to be huge stars, of course.
Yeah.
Without saying. How can I forget their names? How embarrassing. But, even so, they still didn't, that was 1983, actually, to the concert. But it's Deborah Raffin, John Rhys Davies, Louise Fletcher, Steve Inwood, Dick Anthony Williams,
Wow.
names
Yeah.
to conjure with, and it didn't make it. It didn't finish. They couldn't. There was something went wrong with the bear. They used this mechanical bear, and it kept breaking down.
Oh.
And then the Hungarian government moved in and confiscated everything because they hadn't paid their taxes. The usual horror of low-budget filmmaking. But no, Death Wish 3 was a lot of fun. But I did get to interact a lot with Charles Bronson, it has to be said. But because I was a baddie, and so we were sort of menaced him rather than interacted with him. But it was still an interesting experience.
Yeah, I heard that Michael Winner was kind of the Adolf Hitler of film directors.
Well, I don't know if I go that far. He had, I've got my issues with Michael Winner, and that's for another time. But to be honest, I think he just had this terribly waspish sense of humor. And if you didn't get that, you could be intimidated by him. He was very intimidating. He shouted a lot.
Yeah.
And if he was, he had this megaphone, and even if you were like 2 feet away, he might sort of be shouting at you from his megaphone. And but he came up to me when I had my big scream moment, when I scream and Gavin Hurley is Gatling gunned out of the building by Chuck. He said, "Darling, we've only got one chance with this." And because he was kind of the one-take wonder. If you had to get it right, if you screwed up, he didn't want to spend more time or more film. That's why he always came under budget.
Right.
That's why producers loved him. Because he always came under budget, under time. Because he would only give 1 or 2 takes. Obviously, if it's a take with Chuck, right?
Yeah.
Or one of the other, venerable actors, and that was a different thing. But if you're sort of lower down in the food chain, 1 take. And I was terrified because I thought, I can't screw this up. Also because it involved a really big effect shot, because they actually did blow the wall out. So I said, he said, you can't screw this up. You just stand up and scream your head off.
Yeah.
And I was so terrified by him that I did. And it's one of my finest screams, I think, actually.
Oh, yeah, that scream is awesome. I love it. I wish it could be my ringtone on my phone.
Just sample it, darling. Oh, God. Yeah, so, because it did have some great, Deborah Raffin, Ed Lauder, Martin Balsam.
Yep, Martin Balsam.
Alex Winter, Rico Ross. So you can obviously tell I'm looking at IMDb while I'm doing this. But, so it was interesting. But like so many of my other films that had a number after the title.
Yeah.
Barbie Wilde, queen of the sequels.
Yeah, and I've always loved your red pink hair in the movie.
Yeah, that was, I'm tired of the blue. I had blue hair for a long time. And so I thought, let's just get it. Yeah, I think that was the hairdo I used when I went up for my audition for Aliens, the second Alien film. They were looking for Lady Marines. And I don't know what possessed me, but I wore a rather ridiculous outfit, fishnet tights and stilettos to go up for a Lady Marine. And the casting director looked at me and said, I could have looked tougher. I don't know why, but I was nearly a brown belt in kung fu, and I was, doing a lot of physical stuff at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then she said, "We're going to send you on to boot camp for 3 weeks." And I went, "Gee, I don't think I particularly want this one." And
Yeah.
by Jove, I didn't get it. But, I think they often used to send me for castings as a wild card. Let's send Barbie in there to, because she's weird. Maybe she'll get the part, so.
Oh yeah, that would have been good to be an alien.
It would have been, but I don't think I would have been going up for the really tough gal, because there was another girl who was a pilot or something, and she didn't find a job. But no, I don't think that I was considering I went into casting after acting, looking at myself with casting director eyes, I wouldn't have cast me in that film either. But no, the red and black was a cool look as I sort of progressed through all my multitudinous hair colors of the 80s.
Yeah. So how did Hellraiser 2 come into your life?
Well, giving a bit of background, the first film, Clive used a lot of friends of his, people that he'd met, through, his acting friends. I mean, he knew Doug Bradley from, going to school together.
Yeah.
And they went to the equivalent high school together in Liverpool. So, I mean, he got a lot of friends in. His cousin played the female Cenobite in the first film. In the second film, he was prepping for Nightbreed. And so that was taken over, the directing was taken over by Tony Randall. And Grace dropped out because she hated the whole I've heard that she didn't like the makeup process. Sitting for 4 hours getting made up and stuff. And so they had to recast, and they just called I think my agent just saw it, being advertised or something. And I think one of the things is that I know Clive was always very interested in anyone who had mime training, because he did some mime himself. And you can see photographs of him in full mime makeup,
Yeah.
So I think that was a positive for me, having the mime training, because the thing about the Cenobites is they're not the kind of monster that chases you through the forest screaming with a chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
They're very still, and they have, power, and they're very grounded, and that's one thing that the mime does teach you. And it's weird having dance training and mime training, because dance is all about the movement, and mime in many ways is all about capturing the stillness and being very controlled. So that could have been a plus in why I was cast. I also, when I went to the audition, I knew what a Cenobite was. And Tony said, "Oh, it's a word that Clive made up." And I said, "No, it's actually a member of an order, sometimes a religious order." He went, "No, I actually think Clive made that up." I said, "No, you're not supposed to do this." A friend of mine said, "You didn't really care, did you?" I said, "Well, no, I just, I'm the kind of person that, unfortunately, if someone's saying, no, that's true, Clive made that up," I said, "No, actually, I read it in the dictionary," and so maybe Tony was impressed by my knowledge that actually it was, from a real word. It wasn't something that Clive had made up. Then we just had a chat, and I got the job. To be honest, I've said this before in interviews, I almost didn't go to the audition because the first film disturbed me so much.
Oh.
I had never seen anything like Hellraiser. There's this, I thought Julia was fabulous. It's not the thing I didn't like the film. It was just like, wow, what a, mind bender,
Yeah.
all that S&M sex, for goodness sake, geez. That's like, whoa, what's going on? She looks like she's enjoying that, and she shouldn't. And, then the Cenobites appear, and it's like, wow, Clive has created this new breed of monster that doesn't chase after you through the forest. They talk to you, and, he said, "I wanted my monsters to have a voice." And I thought, wow, that's so cool. But I thought they wanted me for the part of Chatterer, and I hated mask work. No, I don't want to be a mask, because I'd done this commercial for Goblin Cream, and I
Mm-hmm.
The mask was just horrible. It still stank of all the chemicals. But in the end, they said, no, it's for the female Cenobite. My friend Jeff said, oh, go on, Barbie. And so I thought, oh, well, I will go. It sounds interesting, and I'm so glad I did, because, to be involved with anything to do with Clive Barker, who is, a Renaissance man, a true genius, who's a writer, painter, director, script writer, all the things that he does. And it was a magical film. I think the first two films they really hang together, and Hellbound has been voted best horror sequel, in the top 5 for many years.
Yep.
Had the chance to work with, Ashley and Doug and Simon, Nico, Ken Cranham, it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, the second one is the only good sequel, and it's because of your presence, because aside from the fact that you're a sexy Cenobite, you bring light to an otherwise remake of the original.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, God. Well, it's funny, because the first time I looked at myself in the mirror when we did the first face test, the makeup test, I sort of went, oh, my God, where's me? I was kind of discombobulated, because you have to remember the time. It was 1988. I had enormous hair.
Yeah.
It was still the height of the 80s, and there I am, bald, blue-lipped, corpse-fleshed, with this rather dubious wound in my throat, and all this metal sticking out of my face. And I went, wow. And then I sort of thought, hold on a minute, get over yourself, look at that face. It's actually quite wonderful, powerful. Here's someone who, and in many ways it did inform my performance, just seeing what I look like, because at the same time I was still being a movie show, movie review TV presenter, and it had with the big 80s hair and the shoulder pads and stuff. So it was like, wow, what a complete change.
Yeah.
And, when people say, oh, you're so sexy, I sometimes thought, I don't quite see it. And then, you say, hold on, it is such a powerful image. It is, wonderful.
Yeah.
In many ways.
How long did it take to get into the makeup, and was that outfit uncomfortable?
Well, it was 4 hours to do the makeup, and then half an hour to get into the costume, because it was all laced.
Yeah.
It was like, the corset kind of thing. Now, I was told that it was Grace's costume. Some people said, no, all the costumes were destroyed after the first film. I found that hard to believe, because they never throw away anything on movie sets, because you never know if there's going to be a sequel. And she had, there were some sort of issues with it, and so it was a little bit, I used to get a lot of lower back pain, because there was something to do with the way it was made or something. But for the most part, the costume wasn't uncomfortable at all. But the makeup was, because it's glued to your face. They use a medical adhesive. And the first time they peeled it off, took an hour to take off the makeup and the prosthetic pieces. Because my head isn't actually quite that big. It's big, but not that big. And, my skin was all pink. And I went, wow, why is my skin all pink? And they said oxygen starvation.
Wow.
Right. So that was, it was kind of, it was an endurance thing, because you'd have to get there anywhere between 4 and 6 every morning. But, actors are used to early calls, but we had to get there much sooner than anyone else. And then you wait around for 10 hours before you get in front of the camera. So it was just a bit grueling. But, hey, John Hurt, what was it?
Elephant Man?
Yeah, there was that 12 hours, but he would fall asleep, you see. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I remember. Say, hey, John, you still in there?
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw the box cover of Hellraiser 2. I was 6 years old, and I thought to myself, oh, Pinhead's got a girlfriend.
Yes, I always used to call myself Mrs. Pinhead.
Yeah.
But I did actually write a story about a female Cenobite, not necessarily my character,
Yeah.
for legal reasons, for the Hellbound Hearts anthology. And, I sort of made some references. Actually, she always sort of repeats what he says or answers his things, sort of like Sigourney Weaver's character in Galaxy Quest. I always repeat what the computer says. But it is a very, symbiotic, I think that's the right word, relationship between the two of them. I sense they're kind of more cohorts than the other two. They're more, they do the planning, perhaps.
Yeah.
And the other two sort of carry out their... I mean, as Nico Vince once said, he was told once that Chatterer was like the family dog. And he was supposed to actually be on all fours for the first two films. But he couldn't get down on his hands and knees because the costume was too tight. So he ended up standing, thank goodness, like the rest of us.
Yeah. Were you satisfied with the way you were killed off?
Heavens no! How do you kill off somebody who's already dead?
Yeah.
I've always had enormous umbrage about that scene. Also, I think, they sort of like, curled up a little bit too easily, as far as I'm concerned. I'm kidding. This is, I have nothing to do with the script. They felt this is, but I know a lot of fans were very pissed off at the fact that the four of us were killed off. Luckily, Doug came back as Pinhead because they actually originally thought Julia would be the repeating character because she was so fabulous. But the audiences loved Pinhead, so they thought, hey, let's bring back Death Wish 3, and they said, that would have been an interesting movie. Hellraiser 3. So, but no, I got turned into some lanky brunette. I don't even know who she was. But that's okay. Gosh, Nico turned into a little boy, and Simon is quite a, and he still is, quite a slender person, and he was turned into a chubby guy.
Yeah.
So none of us, the only person who actually turned into himself was Doug.
Yeah.
But there is a wonderful, meaningful glance between the two, between Ashley and Pinhead. And I think that spoke volumes. And, I don't know. What do you think about the ending? Did you think Chandler deserved to win that battle?
I think, yeah, pretty much. But, I thought everyone's deaths were kind of, quick and forced, But I think it turned out all right.
Yeah. Well, in the end, how it ended was perfect. But no, it's. I've actually got my tongue firmly in my cheek when I say these things. But I still don't quite understand if we're supposed to be kind of these immortal people from another dimension. Maybe it is possible that only one of us could kill us.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense, I suppose. But
yeah, do you think playing the female Cenobite limited you from getting bigger roles?
Oh, heavens, no. The thing is, what I was doing at the time, like I said, I was moving from acting to TV presenting, and that's where my interest then lay. And so I just went to the next job.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no perception of it limiting my performance one way or t'other. Because I was moving into being myself on television, and I think it was the same year I did Hold Tight, which was interviewing people like Johnny Rotten and all these characters on television, and so that was fine for me. Or maybe that was before Hellraiser, I can't remember. But so I just went on to do a few more things, and then, to be honest, by that point I was 35. By the time 1990, a couple years later hit, and that was sort of everything kind of tapered off because, of my age and stuff. So that's when I went into casting, being a casting director. So, one has to be, I had a good run. Because I virtually started working, when I was 23, 24. So I had about 12 good years of doing different things like, supporting Gary Newman, throwing a rock at Charles Bronson, being a monster in a horror movie, presenting 3 or 4 different shows, writing and presenting the shows. So, I had a good run. But, one has to be, unfortunately, realistic, especially as women in the business are concerned. You get to a certain age, as they say, and that's so long and where's new model number, the new model.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I never felt bad. I certainly never would even consider that, to me, it just upped my profile, really, to be in a cult British horror movie.
Mm-hmm. What was it like working with Doug Bradley?
Oh, he's hilarious. They're all hilarious. They're wonderful. I mean, they're all, I was this sort of odd character because, I was this sort of Canadian actress living in the UK, but they just had this wonderful sense of humor. Doug would sit there smoking his cigarettes with a little cigarette holder and glasses and looking like some sort of very posh, person in a robe, and it was just looked, and he was always telling jokes, and it was absolutely wonderful. I have enormous respect for all my fellow Cenobites, Ashley, Ken, Claire, because, the acting is difficult enough, but under certain circumstances where a lot of makeup and all this sort of stuff, you can't be grumpy. You have to keep the spirits up. And they were all absolutely adorable. I think that Doug is one of the, he's I don't know, he's such a character. He has so many great stories to tell.
Yeah.
And he's done some very interesting movies. I think one that will always stay in my mind, I think it was called Killer Tongue, and he shot it in Spain with Robert Englund. I mean, quite extraordinary stuff. No, it was an utter pleasure. And it's so great meeting everybody at conventions. It's like we've never, we still are great friends. And, I had no idea that, what is it now? 7, 8 films have been made.
Yeah, about 8.
In the franchise. And so when I did my first convention, I had no idea that, especially in America, that this film had been shown on the Horror Channel and all this sort of stuff. I had no idea it had such a following. Mm-hmm. I was amazed at how many the Hellraiser fans were out there. And which is great, because I just thought it was this little British horror movie. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea that it had sort of blossomed into this big franchise, or, a modest franchise, I suppose. Yeah. I'm glad because I played the female Cenobite, I was asked to write this story about a female Cenobite, and that basically kick-started my writing career in horror. Because I had written a serial killer novel, which has done quite well in the indie publishing thing, and I said to Paul Kane, and his wife Maria Reagan, they were editing the Hellbound Hearts anthology. I said, listen, I'm only interested in crime. I don't really write horror. And they said, oh, go on, Barbie, Yeah. It'd be so great to get a female perspective on this. And then I wrote the story in a week. I've never written any story so quickly. And it was actually one of the, Publishers Weekly said it was, one of the best stories in my collection of Voices of the Damned. I've written a trilogy of stories now. And so to me, Hellraiser, not only did it, up my profile as an actress, but it certainly kick-started my career as a horror writer.
Nice. Yeah, I met Doug 2 years ago at a convention, and he had a pretty long line, not as long as Ashley's. I didn't get to meet Ashley, but Doug was a very nice man. He seemed like after a while he didn't want to be there, but he was very nice. I got a picture with him.
Well, I tell you, I love doing conventions and stuff, but I don't know, I try and talk to every person who comes to see me.
Uh-huh.
and give them time and answer all their questions. And, you know, you suddenly think, I wonder how many, I've never counted how many people I've seen in one day. And if you've got a busy convention, it can be tiring because you're just giving all this love.
Yeah.
It can be tiring. And um, I try to, you know, people just say, how do you have all that energy? And I just don't collapse when I get back to my room, you know. But, no, he's always, I think he's got, a very dry sense of humor, Doug.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I said, he's a very charming person, very talented individual, as they all are, as we all are.
Yeah. I do this bit in my stand-up comedy act where I take horror movie villains and I put them in these really politically incorrect situations. You know, I start off saying, you know, do you think Freddy Krueger ever walked into a wet dream? And then I say, I say,
I see.
do you think Jason Voorhees ever used the phone sex hotline? And then I do the while he's masturbating, and then when I get to Pinhead, I say the cheesiest joke ever. I say, I just love that Pinhead. He really hits the nail on the coffin.
Right.
Yeah. Only the people who really love horror in the audience laugh at that.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting concept, you know. I can only think that Freddy Krueger would totally enjoy himself if he accidentally entered into a wet dream. And, of course, Pinhead is, you know, the whole concept of the Cenobites was that they were, you know, exploring the ultimates of sensual suffering and all that sort of stuff. But, no, it's a good idea because, I mean, I'm always never ceased to amaze me how popular horror has become. You know, if you go and look on iTunes and sort of favorite movies and stuff, it's all horror now, a lot of it. And, you know, we've seen a movie, Get Out, which is, I guess, a modern non-supernatural horror film, being nominated for an Oscar. And, I haven't seen The Shape of Water yet. Have you?
No. I heard it's good, though.
I'm desperate to see it, but I don't know if that would be considered conventionally as a horror film or suspense or a thriller. I guess because it has a monster in it, it's considered a horror film. So that's been nominated for Oscars as well. I think that's wonderful.
What do you like doing the most, performing or writing?
When I was a performer, I loved it to bits. And now I'm a writer, I'm loving that as well. I think the worst thing for either profession is when you can't work, when you're not working. And I think the whole thing about, you know, you can be proactive as a lot of actors now, they're making their own movies. They're doing movies to showcase their talents. You know, that option was available to me because we just didn't have the equipment. Yeah. Now you can make a movie with your iPhone, you know. But I think with writing, this is a wonderful control with writing because I'm not in somebody else's world, and I'm not speaking someone else's lines. I'm writing those lines. I'm creating those worlds. I'm creating mythologies, you know, and that I find very exciting. And so, but the worst thing is if you have writer's block or something.
Yeah, that's the worst.
That's tough. And when I was writing my novel, it took me a long time to finish it because it was, you know, writing from the male viewpoint. The Venus Complex, my serial killer book. It was not easy, you know. And also, I wanted to make sure that the voice was as true as it could be, and I've been assured by people that it was. But you know, those moments when you think, I can't think of anything to write. It's really horrible. But then, you know, I did this course with Robert McKee, who's quite famous for doing these, you know, writer's courses. And he said, if you come into a writer's block, come against a writer's block, just research. So I read about 57 books about serial killers and forensic detectives and all this kind of stuff.
I used to study.
I'm your go-to girl if you want to know anything about serial killers.
Oh, I know all that stuff too. I used to study psychology.
Oh, right. Oh, I took a few classes at college, and it was absolutely fascinating. So I read a lot of books
Yeah.
about, psychopathic behavior and, that kind of stuff. I mean, this is a long time ago, so. But
Yeah.
there was one particular, I had to go to the British Library to read, called the Herb Cleckley, The Mask of Sanity. And it was like one of the first books ever written about psychopathic behavior in that way. And you could only get it, you had to sit there at the British Library and read it. You couldn't take it out because it was the only copy in the UK or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a really interesting experience. But no, it's, I would say writing now for me. Although I just last year returned to acting after 17 years with The Offer, which is going to be part of a TV series called Dark Ditties. And it was an hour-long, 50-minute film. And it has myself, Simon Bamford, Butterball Cenobite, Nicholas Chatterer,
Nice.
Oliver Smith, who played Skinless Frank, and Kenneth Cranham, who played Channard. So 5 people from Hellraiser are in this little movie. And it's got wonderful reviews. And it's basically, a bunch of people turn up. They think it's part of some kind of game. And they think they're going to get like £5 million. But they end up getting, horribly murdered. I think is the way around it. And I'm the first one to go. So that was a lot of fun. So looking forward to seeing that come onto some kind of streaming service soon. Keep your eyes out for it. But it was weird going back into acting after such a long time. But when I went to see it, I thought, I was actually thought my performance was pretty good, because I was just thinking, oh God, because you can't judge these things anymore if you've been out of the loop for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, if I had to choose, I would still say writing is not what I do. But if they do make a decent Hellraiser sequel or whatever, and they want me to come back in some way, shape, or form, of course I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
I always say that. You don't never say never.
Never say never.
Yeah. So I would say writing is great. And also, I'm also exec producing a film that's going into production in April, or in springtime this year, with Chris Alexander, who used to be the editor for Fangoria, and he's directed quite a few films, Blood for Irina, Queen of Blood, Female Werewolf. And this is called Blue Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the exec producing is really cool, too. And it's based on a short story that I wrote. So that's going into production soon.
Nice. Yeah, I do stand-up comedy. I act. I write screenplays. I do this podcast, and I'll tell you, it's hard to choose which one I like. But I'll tell you something. When I'm on a roll with my writing, I just enjoy every moment of it. But then once I start writing and then I lose inspiration in the middle, I get bored with it very easily, and then I stop doing it for a little bit, and then when I get another idea, and I'm on a roll with that, I start writing it again, and then I'll like take something I wrote in that previous script that I couldn't finish and put it into that, and it all comes together.
Yeah. I think it is. I know several people who are much more disciplined than I am, and I really admire. They say, "Oh, here's my project. I'm working on it every day, and this is this and this." And I think this is, an important thing that I've, need to get a little bit more disciplined in my work and my writing, because I've got, two or three scripts on the boil and all these other things, and maybe it's just too many projects, and it's just like, okay, which is the one that I want to spend the most time with and deserves the time. But it is. There's nothing sweeter than when it's flowing. It really is a wonderful feeling. You think, wow, feel top of the world, Ma. She's coming out. But it's the same when you've done, what you feel is a good job acting or any of these things, that you feel great for an old gal. And so it is, but like I said, it is, when you're creating something, it's very exciting.
It sure is. It sure is. Do you have any convention appearances coming up?
The only one that I know of at the moment is Texas Frightmare, and I
Oh.
think that's the first weekend of May.
Yeah, I think it's May.
Yeah, the 4th, 5th, and 6th of May. And I'm really looking forward to that because it's, the last one I did, which was 4 years ago, it was just, fantastic people, and the fans were wonderful, and it's a very busy convention, so.
I heard, yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully, Clive is going to be there along with, all the Cenobites and stuff. So it should be, really interesting, exciting, for Hellraiser fans, very interesting and exciting con.
Yeah, Doug and Ashley just got booked for Monsterpalooza again, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm keeping my fingers and my toes crossed as to whether or not they invite you.
Well, I have a manager who books these things for me, so I'll he's quite aware of these things,
Yeah.
bubbling away, and so, but he only sort of says it when it's actually written in stone. So that's in March, isn't it, Monsterpalooza? Or is that Son of Monsterpalooza?
No, it's Monsterpalooza in Pasadena. Sun is in Burbank in September, and
Right.
It's April 13th through the 15th.
Right. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Well, keep your fingers crossed. We'll just have to see how things transpire. But obviously, I'd love to come to any conventions. And it was, like I said, I was very sad when Famous Monsters had to cancel, but totally understandable, of course.
Yeah, that was just so devastating to me because they also had the cast of Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead and Fright Night, and I was just like, that was like the perfect convention to go to.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, no, it looked really great, and I was looking forward to meeting Doug Jones because he was booked for that as well, and because he's been playing so many iconic monster characters in Pan's Labyrinth and Crimson Peak and Hellboy, I think it is.
Yeah.
Is it Hellboy? Yeah.
I think it's Hellboy,
and
yeah.
of course, The Shape of the Water, So, no, I think everybody was sad when that one got canceled, sadly.
Yeah. But let's hope, though, that that will happen and stuff. And, yeah, Barbie, you were a terrific 50th guest. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Yes. You have yourself a great day.
Okay, you too. Take care.
Take care.
Okay, then. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. Barbie Wilde. Ain't she a sweetheart? Thank you so much, Barbie. You were an awesome 50th guest, like I said, and I'm sure a lot of you horror fans out there will take a lot from this interview. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Twitter, friend me on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page, and all of that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes.